Right. So week 2 of Girl Get Your Money Straight, book by Glenda Bridgeforth. We are on chapter 2. Kind of delayed this just to get this um, so we can all be on track. So chapter 2 basically is taking a closer look at the history and how we got to the places that we are. Each individual woman is probably different, but almost the same. So we walk in these similarities of how our income, how our income or the money that we make or our relationship with money, how it filtered down from our family. So there's one in the beginning, right at the beginning of the chapter, she talks about a young lady who, makes a grand entrance. She walks into a room, and she has all of these luxury items, and she has all of these nice things. She's 32 years old. Um, she owns a boutique, a salon, a beauty salon. Um, she was like, it says, over the years, while serving as both mother and father to her now 12-year-old daughter, she has worked hard. It says, starting out with one stall shop in a rundown section of the city, she scrimped and saved, and now until she could move her shop to a busy downtown corner location. So she oversaw various stylists, things like that. So judging from how she looked on the exterior, you would have never thought that what was going on in the interior, especially with her finances. Her business was booming and she was, living the high life and, had it all. But after their meeting, she invited invited the author to her car for a ride, and she just kind of had this, how we do the candid conversation, just kind of just, throwing out some stuff to a woman. And she said, I always thought if I made as much money as I do, I'd be set. She said, but she's spending faster than it comes in. She said, I took a home $100,000 last year, but I owe about 63,000. Um, she said she took home $100,000 last year, but she owes 63,000. She said she wakes up at night in a panic about what she bought the day before. Okay. Um, a couple of weeks ago, someone offered to buy my shop. She confided. Um, she said, I was so tempted, but that place is her baby. Besides, as soon as they put the money in my hands, God knows I just blow it and there's nothing left. This was me. And I know I spoke about this in the last meeting. Um, that was me. Like as soon as I got the money, it was like it was gone as fast as quick as I got it. So I could never really understand why, what happened. So she said, God knows I just blow it and I have nothing less. She paused if she was exhausted from the weight of her words. I haven't told anyone else. She said her mother earns as much in a year as she does in 3 months, but she owns a house and has saved money. And she'd be so ashamed if she really knew her situation. It says this individual asked me to work on with her financial counselor, so she started working with her. And one of the things that is helping me is that that conversation with money, having that conversation with money, because when you have that conversation with money, then you're able to really kind of go back and say, huh, this is how it started. So I'll read my conversation with money. So she did a budget. She said she told her she wasn't a bookkeeper or income. She just would help her keep track of how much she had in the bank, or if she went off budget. She said what she would help her do was develop a spending plan and show her how she could pay off her debts. But even that wouldn't be enough. She said, unless you are willing to explore and transform the beliefs and attitudes she had developed about money as a result of childhood events. So everything went backward, family and cultural messages. They would continue to drag her back into debt, regardless of how much money she earned. You could be a millionaire, but you could be, in this relationship with money where you don't know what it is. So for the next several months, she said she came in, did whatever, assessed her monetary needs, clarified how much she needed and to whom. She actually owed a total of 66,000, or 3,000 more 3,000 more than what she had thought. She described herself as scatterbrained and chalked it up to her staggering debt and being a poor manager. So she simply didn't need a connection between her money problems and how she felt about herself. So you got to get to the heart of the matter. So then she goes into that. The next section is getting to the heart of the matter. So she said a few weeks later, the young lady arrived at her office on their scheduled session with a shopping bag. Oh, she went shopping. She said, looking ashamed, she announced, "I just bought a St. John suit. I know I wasn't in my spending plan, and I'm going to take it back." I reminded her that that was. I reminded her that I was not there to judge her, and that's the last thing she needed was to feel more shame. We're already in the shame. I don't need anybody making me feel shame. So this is the reason why we created this setting, is so that you guys can come and really address these issues. So she said, um, we spent the session reviewing her spending patterns over the last month, and she's had actually done pretty well sticking to her plan, except for today's slip. So I suggested a homework assignment. I asked her to consider what she'd been feeling earlier today when she purchased her new $800 suit. Okay. So it says the young lady was somewhat reluctant, but daring to our next appointment. Um, I saw that something had shifted within her. She said, when I went into the department store, I was just there to browse and didn't plan on buying anything. But after I went inside, I decided to go up to look at designer suits. The white saleswoman in the department kept ignoring her, just like I wasn't there, and lavished attention on other shoppers who were white. She said, I know I should be used to this by now, but she was furious. She said, there I was, just like somebody who would be shopping in the store like that. And the other customers looked like they wandered off from a farm. Next thing I knew, I was trying on the suit and whipping out my credit card. Deep down inside, I wanted to show the saleswoman that I was somebody. How many of us have done this, where you've walked into a store and they don't pay attention to you because they don't think that you belong, and so then they kind of wander off. But I'm well equipped. I'm well equipped. I do have the financial means to purchase this suit. So she said I congratulated her for recalling and recounting the feelings, but I encourage her to keep digging, to consider the experience from the perspective of childhood incidences that made that when she made to feel that she wasn't good enough. So she mentioned her father's abandoning the family when she was very young, and she had never and is never returning to see her. She recalled subsequent years of caring for her younger siblings while her mother worked two and sometimes three jobs to support the family. She said, I hate feeling insignificant, like I don't matter, she said. The more financially successful you look, the more respect you get. She said she began looking back over the many purchases and decisions that she had made that had been made on the basis of emotional needs rather than what was actually required for living comfortably. She said, at first, I didn't believe you when you said my debts had something to do with how I secretly felt. She admitted, I just wanted to get the numbers straight. But what happened to me as a kid, or what happened last week with the saleswoman, and my bills go hand in hand, don't they? Yes, they do. Absolutely, they do. She said we would work together several more months, but that day marked a breakthrough for her. In addition to her bi-monthly meetings, she engaged in a self-discovery and healing exercises that's included in the chapter 2. So you'll go through chapter 2. So we've already done chapter 1. So chapter 2, we'll get to that. And the ones to follow, tapping into the positive spiritual power that exists within all of us. She said that she transformed her life, thus rewriting for her daughter's damaging family messages that caused her to fear that she would never have enough. And I do that. I feel like I'll never have enough. So it's like, um, I know that we need certain things, but I shop at these different places that I probably shouldn't shop at. So Target is my downfall. And I just started getting into Target, but Target is a little bit cheaper than the regular grocery store, but it's still kind of like on the expensive side. So I've started using coupons. So you know, the couponers. But anyway, um, so it says, with her mind and spirit working in sync, she conveyed to the world that she was a woman of worth without having to display it through expensive clothes and accessories. So that's that section. So now we get to how culture influences our emotional attitudes. So the culture of Black women, it has brought us to a place where we have to, and I learned this when I was doing an MLM. I had to fight 10 times as harder when I would, you know, try to get a party, to book a party. And then even at the party, I had to, you know, go above and beyond to show that I was, you know, adequate enough, or I was educated enough to be able to um, give this information not only to white women but to women of color. So it was that dynamic where it was like I you have to go above and beyond. So you could have a master's degree, but then it's just like, okay, we have a PhD. So it's like you have to really like prove yourself in a society. So for me, that's the cultural influences. Okay. So it says, as Black women, our unique culture, history, family messages, and day to day life experiences contribute to a high level of self criticism and self doubt, which may ultimately play out in money mismanagement. Absolutely, it does. Okay. Um, so I got to go back up. It says, whether we are Black, white, male, or female, we are psychologically vulnerable. We may allow negative experiences encountered in daily life to whittle away at our self esteem, leaving us feeling ungrounded and out of sorts. She said, in her experience, a diminished sense of self worth frequently drives unhealthy behavior with money. So that's when it got to the mismanagement. So in 1999, the book called What Mama Couldn't Tell Us About Love, Healing, the Emotional Legacy of Slavery, Celebrating Our Light, psychologist Dr. Brenda Wade and co-author journalist Brenda Lane Richardson examined the legacy of a more painful aspects of African American history on our emotional conditioning, our capacity of self love, and our intimate relationship. They assert that our people have a legacy of feeling and beliefs that develop from our collective experiences, beginning with the kidnapping of our African ancestors when they were dragged in chains to the New World. Dr. Wade and Ms. Richardson go on to suggest that embedded in the African culture is a belief system that grew out of the disruption of losses of slavery and the violence of and humiliation of life under Jim Crow laws, and continues to be reinforced under the of um, subletter forms of today's racism. Their book vividly describes how these things have shaped what we believe ourselves and our behaviors on all levels, and what it takes to transform our thinking and our behavior toward healthier models. So I started this I became a life coach because of something that happened with a guy. But going back, there was a lot of things that I wasn't learned. There, you know, there wasn't that teaching. So becoming the life coach, it was the limiting and mistaken beliefs that I had had about myself, and that was told to me. And it wasn't by anyone else. It was just by one person. It was my mother. My mother really formed and shaped my belief about men and about money and things like that. So it became this dynamic. It was like this fight. So I didn't know how to do any of it because I just lived, you know, the way she told me to live. And so when she passed away, it was like, now what do I do? So it's like I had to learn myself. I had to learn how to have healthy relationships. And so here we go. All right. So it says most African Americans need to go back only a few generations to identify ancestors who were sharecroppers. These men and women sold their labor to landowning planters for a share of their crops their labor produced. It may have sounded like a reasonable arrangement, but the way it typically worked was anything but fair. Our sharecropper predecessors were consistently taken advantage of, overcharged for supplies and rents by their landlords. Consequently, they became more indebted after each season, even though they toiled in and day out. That's us going to work day in and day out. We give, we give, but we don't get paid what we are, what we're worth. Okay, and often brought in good crops. Encouraged to buy on credit from plantation stores that systematically overcharged them, Black sharecroppers usually only sunk deeper into entangling obligations. Unfortunately, many Black people today feel as powerless as their sharecropper forebears because they can't seem to get ahead despite hard work and even greater opportunities. Today, we have more control over our lives and more options to choose from, but a strong sense of pessimism still lingers within our culture, that the world is a harsh and alien place and we can expect to get very little from it to sustain us. Such a perspective is passed from generation to generation through attitudes and messages like, as a Black person, you can never get ahead, or I've got two strikes against me. I'm Black and I'm female. Okay. Our cynicism is certainly understandable given how we came to live in this country. But looking back on our history to appreciate the origins of these attitudes can also give us valuable perspectives to free ourselves from them when they no longer appropriate. When they are no longer appropriate, sorry. More important, we should also appreciate that the courage and perseverance that our ancestors displayed in trying times is also a part of our own genetic makeup. We can view a heroic effort of our forefathers and our foremothers with pride and admiration, claim the gut muscles that they used to survive the hardship of their times as our own, and exercise those muscles to improve our circumstances financially and in every other way. So the next one goes to the challenges of African American history and heritage. Um, let's see. Okay, so she's talking about roots and how it had a profound impact on the country when it first aired. So it talked about 130 million viewers. The film had both blacks and whites glued to television sets for 8 nights, revealing the Haley's family agonizing but ultimately triumphed odyssey from Africa to the New World. The miniseries dramatically revealed to the nation an aspect of Black history that is still largely absent from the textbooks, even though it's an integral part of the larger American history. The truth is, this aspect of our history is excruciatingly difficult to look at whether we're Black or white. People from all over the world, from Albania to Vietnam, have come to America seeking a better life. And many of these immigrants experience bias and prejudice. But African Americans are the only people who came to this country against their will. I'm going to read that again. African Americans are the only people who came into this country against their will, being stolen from Africa and brought here to be used as free labor was the beginning of a horrendous journey, but it was also the beginning of a saga of a people with a strong will and indomitable human spirit. I can read, but that word just threw me off. Anyway, let's go forward. People of African descent, in fact, have a rich history to be proud of, even before we even came to the New World. Many early African civilizations enjoyed tremendous prosperity because of the diverse practices in agriculture, industry, and commerce. Every African tribe, excuse me, had distinctive skills and knowledge in which they built economic well-being. Pygmies specialized in manufacturing bark cloth and fiber baskets. Ashantis wove rugs and carpets. Hottentots made clothing from textile skins and furs. The Yoruba made ornamental objects from silver and gold. According to a noted historian, John Hope Franklin, in his book From Slavery to Freedom, A History of Negro Americans, King Mansa Musa, ruler of Mali, once financed a pilgrimage by using 80 camels to bear his more than 240,000 pounds of gold. This kind of travel, frequently led by kings, did a great deal to stimulate trade and further develop African civilization and culture. So, in fact, we have a history of prosperity, commercial savvy, and financial ingenuity in our blood. Our ancestors were enslaved in the 16th century to satisfy the European colonial need in the New World for laborers to clear the land and cultivate the fields. Estimates show that between the 16th and 19th century, almost 14 million men, women, and children were taken from Africa. During these hellish times, our foremothers were more than just passive victims of economic expansion. They played an integral part, if too frequently unheralded role, in the resistance and the struggle for freedom. Many demonstrating geniuses, ingenuity, and extraordinary courage as they sought to establish and maintain certain quality of life for themselves and their family. Okay, so it says after the Civil War, she gets into that. They were promised the 40 acres and the mule, never got that. So let's go on. So it just gets into what happened then. So there's this quote that says, "It's natural to ask, why have our people had to suffer so many injustices? But it's more important to acknowledge how our ancestors' endurance had created opportunities for us to experience lives without bondage, including life without modern financial bondage. The discrimination that still intrudes in the day-to-day life of the 21st century Black woman can be subtle, obscure, and often undercover, but it can still be debilitating. Sometimes we get demoralized and don't have the energy to respond directly to every racial affront or slight in order to have our grievances addressed promptly. We, like other Americans, are often easily seduced by consumer culture that links our status in life to what we own. But we must be especially wary of acting out financially, of consuming more than we should just to soothe ourselves after an incident that diminishes the sense of basic equality and the respect that white people take for granted. Yes, our responses to our own cultural history can be um, underlyingly cause of how and why we use misuse money today. Yes, although there have been great strides made by our people over the last 350 years, some individuals of our cultures continue to treat us unfairly. Unfortunately, life is not always fair, but we can use this information to help us connect the dots and draw conclusions to keep our eyes focused on creating the quality of life that is financially balanced and spiritually fulfilling. If we learn to model the courage and tenacity of our ancestors, whose traits are a part of our very being and substance, we can persevere through today's challenges with our self-esteem intact and our finances in control. Contemporary workplace woes, she talks about that. Public accommodation, the restaurant blues. This was one where she went into the restaurant and they were dressed to the nines, and um, they were told there's a dress code, and they seen some white people that came in that weren't dressed in dress code, and so that was an issue. Shopping while Black, I know we've all done that. That's an issue for us. The distorted mirror of the American media, how media has us look at things. So this was a lengthy one where it talks about the basketball players, things like that. So that's a good section to read. I don't want to just go into it reading. Salving our wounds with money. So one of the things that my mom used to do is, and this was learned from my mom, So there would be like this dynamic at home, and there would be this, that whole thing. And what my mom would do is she would go shopping, and that would kind of soothe the wounds that she had. And so that became a learned behavior for me. So, like when I was having a bad day or when something went wrong, and usually it was something that went wrong financially, what I would do is, well, I'll just go shopping, and it would soothe me. But then at the time, you think, man, that money that I just spent could have went towards paying whatever, or paying something off, or paying something else, right? Or getting gas in my car, because then it would be, I'm spending that money and then I needed gas in my car. And so then it's like, then I'm like, I get to the point where I was like, now I don't want to return it, because you can go to jail for that. So, I mean, you can get tickets for that if you're just constantly returning things. So, salving the wounds, looking for love in all the wrong places. So then you start looking for love. This was a good one. Um, Many complex socioeconomic patterns and psychosexual dynamics contribute to African Americans' current status as the ethnic group in the United States with the lowest marriage rates. That's another book entirely. But for the purposes of gaining the understanding of what fuels our own financial patterns and choices, it's important to note that the absence of love, of a love relationship, is a very common excuse sisters use to justify impulsive spending. If we feel there's not enough love, affection, recognition, appreciation, or attention in our personal lives that trigger sadness, loneliness, and depression, these emotions create feelings of scarcity and lack, and we try to fill the void however we can. All too often, we empty our wallets and expand our credit card debt while trying to fill a hole in our hearts. She speaks from experience, and I probably do too. But I think my mom did as well. My mom would have, so when my mom passed away, like she had a walk-in closet full of clothes. I mean, from it like wrapped around one side to the next, the top shelf. Um, she had crystal. So my mother worked at Dillard's, and you get your discount. Had crystal. She had purses. She had luggage. There was jewelry. There was perfumes. There was makeup. I mean, it was so many things. Um, that it was so unfathoming to me. My mother was in a relationship with this guy, and this it was a man. He was, I want to say guy, man. She was in a relationship with a man, and he was very emotionally abusive to her. And so he would do things to her. And I remember my mom used to call me about it. And she'd ask me, well, what would you do? And I'm thinking, I don't know what I would do because I'm not in that situation. And I've never had a relationship to where I could like give you the answer to the question. But I would give her an answer and say, well, I wouldn't take that, things like that. So my mother used to like chase the man down. She used to go by his house. She used to set her day. Um, and in the morning time, because I lived with her for a minute when I was going through my financial situation. And I was, living with mom because, things were happening. And a lot of the times that I was living with my mom, it wasn't anything that was anything. There was times that it was something that I did, but the last time that I lived with her, it wasn't my fault. So anyway, digress. So I remember we would get up and go to work because she worked downtown and so did I. And so crazy to me that she would set her day. I remember the first day we went to work together, and my mom got up, and she got up real early, and we were leaving, and like she set aside this time span to drive past this man's house to see who was there. It was the craziest moment of my life. And I said, Mom, and I told her, I said, Mom, you're a beautiful woman. You have your own house, you have your own vehicle, and you're sitting here and you are putting yourself in a situation behind a man. Like you don't feel that you're good enough because this man. But after that, I found out what my grandpa did, and so then it started making sense. It was like, oh, so now it makes sense. Okay, so a lot of the habits and behaviors that our mothers have in these relationships, it kind of stems from that thing. So my mother would go buy all of the fine clothes, had the nice car, had the nice house, the nice furniture. I mean, leather furniture. She had it all. but was emotionally, there was the void. Okay. Um, so it says, so that was that part. So you read that part, looking for love in all the wrong places. And then we get to, well, then after that, after she realized that, what she did was, is like you know, she had a frustrating evening because she was with her friends. So she went with her friends, and her friends, they started talking about relationships. And she said it wasn't a bad conversation. It was just like these women were in these relationships, they were healthy. And she's like, I'm recently divorced. And so she'll talk about the relationship that she had with her ex-husband in the book. I think it's in chapter 1, but she talks about her relationship. And so now she's like, well, I'm newly divorced. And so she kind of got upset because she's like, they have these healthy relationships, and here I am, I'm single, and I don't have anything to talk about. So then she went into this whole mindset and she shifted it. And she said, what did I learn from these men? What was something that I gained from them? Not anything that I lost, but what did I gain from the relationships? And I remember I did that one day. I was like, well, you know what? I can't say that it was bad, but what did I learn from them? What did they teach me about me? So she did that. So that's on page 50. And then, so then she did the exercise that she said this exercise proved. So what she did, I've got to go back. So after enjoying the vision for a few moments, so she one evening, she said she settled down for her nightly ritual and began reading the following meditation. So she was at church and they started doing reading, doing a prosperity class, I want to say, and this this came up. She says, all my needs and desires are completely fulfilled by the I am presence of God, pure, unconditioned being. With my clear thinking, I create the mental molds I desire for this for spirit to fulfill full. Therefore, I expect the enrichment of love, joy, creativity, money, and supply in my experience, and I receive them. So she said she laid back and closed her eyes and contemplated the mental mold that she wanted to feel. Immediately, the relationship void came to mind. She said, I began to visualize filling the void with not just healthy, happy relationships, but with a true soulmate, a king who would treat me like a queen. After enjoying the vision for a few moments, she said, I then asked myself, okay, who are the men that have been in her life in the last 12 months? To her surprise, she had felt that there was so much lack in the area, but she listed toiled 11 men. So she went through and she said who she shared like different things with, things like that. She said she had made her way through the list. She said she became overwhelmed with joy and realized the abundance and prosperity that they had unknowingly been experiencing. So she gave 5 examples of the different men of the 11. She gave 5 examples of these men and what they taught her. She said this exercise proved to be one of the most profound exercises on page 50 of her life. It demonstrated to me that by adapting the attitude of gratitude for all my experiences, she could recognize the value in each one. So there's value in each of the relationships that they brought her. And that's page 50. Page 51 is keeping our men in more ways than one. Hold on, it's my grandson. Okay, sorry, my grandson. Okay, so keeping our men in more ways than one. So, in our eagerness to catch a man, we are sometimes willing to play finders keepers. Many Black women with low self esteem think that in order to keep a man in today's society, you must do more for him than other women. Absolutely. How many of us have done this? Okay. I know you're like, well, what does this have to do with money? Everything ties to your money. Okay. Consequently, we are more competitive for the affection of those with the acceptable criteria and end up supporting them lock, stock, and barrel. We must be careful not to create chaos in our lives by assuming full financial responsibility and providing a carte blanche lifestyle for perfectly healthy and able-bodied brothers. It's a financial trap that's too many sisters fall into. Absolutely. There was one on TikTok. There were two actual. That I wanted to well, not discuss, but I'm going to bring up. One young lady had herself in a financial situation, and I don't know how she got there. So let me just say, I don't know how she got there, but the narrative was, I'm in this financial situation. I'm with this guy. I don't want to say if it was her baby daddy or if it was a boyfriend. But anyway, she called him and she said, well, I'm in this situation. Can I stay with you? He told her no. She told him, no, no, you can't come stay with me. There was another young lady that was and I don't know what the premise behind it was, but another young lady went out to eat. You could see the plate that said Longhorn Restaurant, the steakhouse. And she was like, he brought me here on a date. So in her mind, I ordered the most expensive meal. She had the quarter, I think she said the quarter house or something like that. She has macaroni and cheese and Brussels sprouts. You see across the table, he's not there. He left her. And then she's sitting there saying, well, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. Absolutely not. Okay. That is the most asinine thing. If you're going to take me to the steakhouse, sir, just be prepared. You asked me here. But as a woman, what I've learned is I cannot depend, I cannot continually to put myself financially in a place where I'm going out to eat with a man and I don't have anything, just in case something happens, you know. Um, so that's one thing that I've learned is like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to keep doing that. I'm going to have my own money. So just in case something happens, this is what it is. So I did express that to a gentleman and he was on fire, livid. He was livid with me because I was like, well, I would love to go out with you and have a drink, but because I can't reciprocate and do, you buy a drink, I buy a drink. I am not comfortable with doing that, because I don't want to be dependent on a person where it may, hit me full circle and come back and haunt me, or it'll be something that you throw up in my face later. Okay. So it says, as Black women, we must choose to go it alone rather than by the affection of men. This can be a tough choice to make. She said, I know of a woman who won a fellowship that required relocating from Oakland to DC. According to the myth she had heard, would find 10 Black women for every Black man in the nation's capital. However, as a recent divorcee with two small children, getting involved was the last thing on her mind, and she knew that this was an important step for her to make career-wise. She did not. She did meet some brothers, but most weren't. Most wanted to spend time with her. Most wanted her to spend time with them without the children in tow. She didn't mind going out occasionally with the kids, but constantly juggling children and dates and paying babysitters for the privilege was no fun for her either or her wallet. Then a sister friend introduced her to a wonderful man who was a single parent. From the beginning, all their children were included, which lessened the strain on her wallet. She was no longer making irresponsible financial choices for the sake of having a man in her life. Okay. I'm going to say that again. She was no longer making irresponsible financial choices just for the sake of having a man in her life. She was no longer making irresponsible financial choices just for the sake of having a man in her life. My mama did it all the time. She and her new man recently celebrated their 22nd wedding anniversary. Her motto is a good one to embrace. A man should simplify your life, not complicate it. This applies financially as well as romantically. The next one, page 52, is I may be broke, but I look good. How many of us have gone through that? Sunday to go meetings. This was the one that those, all of these hit home for me. All of them hit home. But the Sunday to go meeting was the one where you get dressed for your Sunday. You buy outfits Sunday after Sunday. Okay, but you ain't got no money, and then the church ain't gonna be there to help you when you in your financial situation. That was a good. Begin your healing affirmations as healing tools. So she gives us that. She talks about a client named Shauna. Yeah, so Shauna was, and I don't know, Spirit is telling me to go back to the Sunday to go meeting. Well, they're telling me to go back to both. Okay, so I may be broke, but I look good. So it says Black women in particular. So I'm going down to the third paragraph. It says Black women in particular are very image conscious and feel they must look good in addition to showing visible signs of success. Um, her own unscientific study indicates that regular weekly clients at Black beauty salons spend an average, in addition to the exorbitant number of hours, $225 per month on hair care. This amount does not include any monthly spending on nails, facials, and massages, which more and more Black women are viewing as a necessity rather than a luxury. For a date, party, concert, or other outings, we sisters must have a new outfit, vacations, holidays, professional meetings, personal empowerment, conferences and sorority clubs, and or church events have the expectation of serious shopping attached. She said, example, her client Kendra was going on a cruise. And so she says, this girl Kendra says she doesn't like going on cruises because going on cruises with Black people, it's just like you have to, she just doesn't feel comfortable. And she says like you have to purchase this new cruise wardrobe. She didn't like it. So um she was going the dinner with the captains, and so she found this dress, and so she had previously had, she took that, and it was just like you had more money to spend on the event rather than trying to buy clothes, because you spending money on a dress that you're only going to wear one time. I have a few of them in my closet right now that I've only wore one time. Okay. So it says, so where do the urges come from? Why do Black women continue this pattern at any price? One reason is that as children, we rarely got clothes unless it was a special event. Easter, Christmas, your birthday, things like that. Church functions. Um, if jackets or shoes were torn or damaged, if were worn thin or were damaged, torn, or lost, we just had to make do until the next special event. Psychologist Brenda Wade agrees that that's part of it, but it feels there's a more significant reason at the core. It's shame. Black women feel that they are not good enough and must compensate in some way. It's noise in the background that's always there, related to our self-esteem and our self-worth, she adds. The new output provides a temporary confidence boost, but the deeper issues still needed to be explored. Our issue with self-esteem, image, and people-pleasing have made our lives painfully complex by making perceptions and perfectionism imperative, even if that means using cash advances to live on. Jesus Christ. We frantically try to prove we are as good or as better as everyone else, and thrive on being acknowledged by others for the visual signs of success, especially with our clothes, because we love to receive compliments. This is the case for many of us who, even though personable and talented in our own right, are devastatingly broke, yet have to make sure we look good regardless of the financial turmoil it causes. So as I'm reading this, I was thinking about Cardi B when she was doing Fashion Nova. She was like, "Listen, I got $1,000. I mean, I can't remember what she said on her wrist, but she had like a $10,000 watch on. But she said my outfit, Fashion Nova. I don't know if you ever remember that when she first started, putting out the Fashion Nova content. She had on a sweater, she had the watch, and she was turning around her jeans. Fashion, she was like Fashion Nova. She said, my outfit is less than. So that was something that just came to me when I was as I was reading that Cardi B example, where when you look at Cardi B, yes, she makes a lot of money, but she's in Fashion Nova. At that time, she started making a lot of money, but she's in Fashion Nova. Okay. And don't nobody come for me now talking about, but now you don't know. You have no idea. Okay, so stop it. Anyway, Sunday to church, Sunday go to Sunday go to meeting. So churches have long been a center of influence in the Black community. An estimated 80% of African Americans attend religious services regularly versus 62% of the general population. Religious faith was largely responsible for our ancestors' ability to sustain themselves through the many atrocities of our culture history. But even here, money plays an interesting role. In Oakland, for example, 175 of the largest Black churches deposit an estimated 780 million a year in one Bay Area bank alone. The same is true in other cities and states with a significant Black population. According to the Target Market News, African American households contributed 4.1 billion nationwide to churches and religious institutions in 1996. But if you ask them, can they help you? Okay. Some Black churches collect sustainable amounts of money and have generously financed Black banks, credit unions, insurance companies, and residential facilities. However, religious participants is also a major source of cultural pressure and financial expectations for Black people. Image competition starts in the traditional Black churches when mothers work very hard each Sunday to make sure their children look perfect, look perfect like little models. Kids are threatened with beatings if they play, get dirty, or mess up their clothes or hair before arriving to church. It has happened. Black folks show up for church and everybody tries to outdo everybody else, from the elaborate Sunday hats to the decked out Easter ensembles. I promise you it happened. Example. So my mother was that woman, and I use my own example. So my mother was that woman Sunday after Sunday. So I was the only one that really went to church. So outside of the siblings, so I'm the middle child, the only girl, and I just followed mom's lead. And so Saturday morning, 6 a.m., we were up sitting outside the beauty shop, the beauty salon. Okay, we were waiting to go inside to the shop. We would spend all day there. We would leave and we would go shopping for Sunday. My mother was the kind of woman that if I saw an outfit and they had multiple colors, I'm getting all colors. Okay. I'm getting same outfit, but it's just gonna be different colors. I was that kid. Okay. So I had all of it. So it got to a point where Sundays, my mother, and then there was a couple of other women in the church. I want to say it was like two or three of them. My mom would come in and she'd have on her nice little outfit, and then these ladies would do the same thing. So Sunday after Sunday, my mother would dye her hair this strawberry kind of, you know, it's like this blondish color. And so she would dye her hair, and there was women that would try to duplicate who she was. Really showed the power that my mother had in who she was, and but it really showed too that she didn't see who she was. Like, she was a leader, but she just really didn't see it. Anyway, I digress. So it was that competition. So my mom would buy a new car. These women would go out and buy a new car. It was the this was the when I read that part, I thought, you know what? Absolutely, it happens. It absolutely happens. Absolutely. Absolutely, it does. Okay. In addition to the expenses associated with looking good for church, there are usually 3 or 4 collections taken per Sunday. Ministers coerce congregants to give to the general fund, the building fund, the missionary fund, the pastor's anniversary, and so on. As choir saying, the more you give, the more he gives to you. Dropping large bills into the collection plate has long been a source of power and prestige. And often, because Blacks have no other means to power and prestige in society, they use the Black church to fulfill this need. My God. In addition, many Black women are genuinely inclined to tithe 10% of their salary to the churches, regardless of the strain it may put on their finances. One client was past due on her credit card payments, $114,000 in debt, which included student loans and outstanding balances on her luxury vehicle. She remained adamant about tithing because it was her way into heaven. Read it for yourself. Okay. So we're going to go down. Granted, it says most ministers give much of themselves to their congregants and are constantly pulled in different directions, and they deserve a comfortable lifestyle to rest and rejuvenate their spirit in order to provide religious support for the community. But if your minister lives in a luxury home, drives a Cadillac, and insists on your tithing 10% of your income while you are constantly behind on your rent and unable to meet your monthly bills, something is wrong with that picture. Absolutely, it is. You should rethink your priorities and adjust your contributions until you are on a more solid financial ground. Another aspect to be conscious of when tithing 10% is the belief that as long as I tithe my 10%, God will take care of everything else. There is a great danger in failing to accept personal responsibility. You must do a reality check to make sure that every 2 or 3 months or so, you are not seeking a bailout or a rescue from family and friends in order to pay your rent, car loan, or other expenses through the month. This is not being financially responsible or a good steward of the resources God provides for you. Begin your healing affirmations as healing tools. She gives us the affirmations, talks about the client Shauna, because Shauna was always saying, I've got $40,000 in debt. I got $40,000 in debt and I can't get rid of it. She said, as a result, she was stuck in the mindset that her debt could never be decreased. She couldn't give herself a deadline and a plan to pay it off because she resented it so much. So she said, one day this is on page 57. She said, one day I suggested to Shauna, let's stop obsessing about the debt, okay? Because there's a saying that says what you think about, you bring about. So the more she kept thinking about the $40,000, the more it was just there. So she said, that's why I love the mindset and the limiting and mistaken beliefs, because it changes how you think. You see how you already talk about yourself, but changing the limiting and mistaken beliefs and believing that, well, I can't get out of debt. Okay. So she says, let's stop obsessing about the debt. We're clear on how much it is. So we already know that we are in debt and what needs to be done. Instead, let's literally thank God for the opportunity to earn a substantial income. We have jobs, okay, and the ability to make payments every month. Bless each check as you write it out, and bless each creditor's notice instead of cursing it. Shauna immediately perked up, acknowledging that she had been seeing the glass half empty and not half full. After all, these creditors have trusted me and had confidence that I would repay, she said. I can live up to that. So the attitude of gratitude, thanking, changing the aspect of everything. And so that's the end of chapter 2. So the exercise in chapter 2 at the beginning, she says, let's think about recognizing your emotions. So this is where we're going to get to next. And oh, so we're going to do the assignment. And when we come back next Sunday, it is your assignments. Okay. Just lost that. Anyway, okay. So exercise 1 in chapter 2 is think about times when you spend impulsively. What's usually going on in your life? Are you angry with a mate, frustrated at work, feeling sad, lonely, or inadequate? Take some time to complete the following sentences. She says, try to write at least on one sheet of paper or one journal page for each statement. Write whatever comes to your mind and don't edit. See what is revealed to you in the process. If you get stuck, start the next sentence with I feel and continue to probe your thoughts and feelings about the statement. So the first statement is I am more likely to spend impulsively when. Second question is whenever I spend impulsively, I'm typically feeling. Okay. Question number 3 is the consequences of my impulse spending are usually blank. And the last question is instead of spending impulsively, I can choose to blank. Okay. Exercise 2, reflection of a lifetime. So there's 3 exercises in chapter 2. Yeah, 3 exercises. Okay, so exercise 2, page 60, is the reflection of a lifetime. What's your story? Think back over your adult life. How could you categorize the major periods of your life to date? In your journal or on a blank sheet of paper, take a few minutes to describe your financial life using 3 words or key phrases. For me, the terms breakdown, breakout, and breakthrough work best. Just for fun, you might even try to summarize your life using using a song, television program, or film titles. For example, Shop Around, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. You indulged all your wants and needs. Two, Bills, Bills, Bills by Destiny's Child, the result from your indulgence. And three, Track of My Tears, Smokey Robinson, the Miracles, the aftermath of your emotions. That is cute. I like that. So that's exercise number 2. Exercise number 3 is creating inspirational anchors. This says internalizing positive affirmations is a big step towards taking action to break the traditions of money dysfunction passed from generation to generation and getting your money straight. Don't hinder yourself or your children with money burdens any longer. Declare that financial dysfunction stop with you. From here on in, use affirmations to anchor yourself to the new reality and belief system you want to create in your life. First, identify 5 of your old beliefs that should be changed. For example, I'll never get my bills paid off. Next, determine the desired result. You want to be debt free. Now, create a positive sentence in the first person pretense or first person present tense that includes the desired result as if you've already achieved it. For example, I radiate joy and I share it with others as I live in an abundant lifestyle of free of debt. Be sure to include powerful, inspirational words like enthusiastic, magnificent, prosperous, dazzling, spectacular, marvelous, glorious, opulent, exciting, fantastic, splendid, and awesome. She said these words help add energy to your affirmation. Read and complete each one of the one for each one for a minute in the morning. Gosh, Trina, and in the evening as you start out. Do it aloud if possible, as much as you feel as you can muster up. Use as much feeling as you can muster. And don't worry if it feels uncomfortable at first. This means that you've only touched upon an area that needs work. After a while, increase the time for the ritual to 5 minutes and then to 15 minutes. Now, know that repetition is a powerful way to reprogram your subconscious and mind to accept these ideas as reality. Then be open and ready to experience a wonderful shift in your attitude and behavior. So that's the first chapter. That's chapter 2. So next Sunday we'll be on chapter 3. And so what I want to do is I want to coincide a few books that I've gotten off the TikTok shop. You can get them off Amazon. I got one of these books out of the Barnes and Noble. So what I will tell you is the Miracle Journal is a journal that you can write it's got like workbooks in there. So it's like a workbook. And then the Laws of Attraction. I got this out of Amazon. No, Barnes and Noble. So I went to Barnes and Noble. I got this one. And so you just write your affirmations in there. 369 journal. This was also off of the TikTok shop. So you just write your 369 method. Now, I will tell you that this is going to make a powerful, powerful, powerful nudge into the right direction of your finances. Okay. So, girl, get your money straight. This was book club number 2. Thank you for watching. And I hope that this helps you. Oh, Spirit reminded me that I was supposed to read you my letter to money. Let's see. I got to find it. Sorry. It's not in this book. Oh, it's in this one. All right. So this was my letter to money. This was in chapter 1, I believe. So it says, Dear Money, I'm afraid of you because, to be honest, I don't know you. I feel like I avoid you at all costs because I don't know you. I don't know how you work and what you do for me. I don't put you to good use because I don't know where and why it would benefit me in the long run. I feel that you are non-existent in my life. Like I need you for minor expenses. You show up for that, but larger expenses, my credit score, having a vehicle, travel, it's like you disappear from me. I feel that even in my regular expenses, you leave so fast, and I cannot connect with you to help our relationship grow and prosper. I honestly don't know what I'm doing wrong that hinders our relationship. Money replied to me and said, you only need me for those small things. You expect me to do that, but you don't expect me to do the bigger. You don't even believe that I can or will do bigger things for you. You don't rely on me for that. You only rely on me for the simplest projects because you believe in the simplistic. You say you are not meant to be broke, that you are supposed to be wealthy, but you don't act like it. You limit yourself to only the simplest relatable expenses. I said, okay, well, how do I change that? Because I do want you in my life, and I want to build a better relationship with you. Money says, believe that I am there for you. Ask me for the millions. I want to be there for you as well. Ask me for whatever it is you need. I'm not basic, or our transactions need to be magnanimous, large in scale. Don't bare minimum me. I show up for what you ask for. I said, me, okay. I will practice to ask for the magnanimous that made me um, I said, that made me smile. But question, why do, why, why I do that? Why do I do that? Bare minimum myself, lowball essentially my finances and barely make it, if not at all. Why do I do that? Money said, it wasn't taught to you because they didn't understand. They couldn't teach that to you. Getting to know me is precious. Your mom, didn't want you to need me more than you needed her. She didn't want you to outshine or excel past her knowledge of how to control me. She controlled how she dealt with me. So because she controlled it, of course, you never got to know me. Now we will build a fulfilling relationship with each other, because I am not here to hurt you or leave you desolate or be in and out of your life. I want to remain with you and be a steady partner with you. So starting today, ask me to help you, ask me to show up for you in the magnanimous way. That was my relationship with money. So that was the beginning of I want to say chapter three. No, chapter one. Chapter one is what she told us to do. So this is personal for me, but I want us to be able to understand that just because I'm a life coach doesn't mean that I'm not going through anything. And I am ever learning, and I am grateful that, Spirit trusts me to do this work so that I can share this work with others. And, so that we can get out of debt, so that we can be financially fiscal, so that we can travel the world, so that we can do the things that we want to do without having that looming feeling of hanging over our head that I'll never make it. And that was one of the feelings that I had, is the lady Shauna that was saying, you know, I have debt. Like my student loans outweigh everything. That's like the crux of where I'm at, is my student loans. And I rethink it over and over again. But I have to think, okay, well, they trusted me enough to give me the student loan, so I need to be able to, return that. So I appreciate the fact that they've done that. So this book is really an eye opener. It helps you move past the limiting and mistaken beliefs that you have about money. It helps you build a relationship with money. It helps you understand your relationships outside of money. It helps you understand the relationship with people in the workplace. It helps you really, really understand. I cannot wait to finish this book. I am so grateful that this book, fell into my lap. And I want to be able to share this knowledge and this wisdom with you guys. So go forth and conquer, and I will see you guys next Sunday.